Okay, so I am recording now. Okay, welcome everybody. This is test number 1 review for the Co-Req class. Once again, I'm going into the actual test 1 review in the homework section, and I'm going to do these 19 problems. There are 20 problems on the test. There are 40 problems in the review, but I went through the 40 problems and I picked these that most resembles the questions on the test. So let's go to the test review. And the test review is here, right here. And if you look, question number 3 is the first problem on my list. So here's, can you guys actually see my homework review test 1 and the problems? Just want to make sure.
Yes.
Okay, good. Is it really small, or I wish I could make it bigger. I don't see how to make this larger.
Try control and then the plus sign.
Okay, let's try that. Control plus.
No.
It's working. Thank you. All right. All right, so here we are. The first problem. Let's go through it. Find the numerical value. And so this is a evaluate. X is 2 and Y is 8. Remember when I did this, I put parentheses everywhere there's a letter.
I can't see the question that you're doing, the problem.
Can you see my writing?
I can see your writing, but not the problem.
Oh, maybe
It's
because
still on the homework with all the list of questions.
Oh, okay. That's what I was asking. Okay. Yes. Now I'm on the homework, right? Now you can see it.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Right. The X over 5 and plus the Y over 7. Yes. Do you see this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So it's X over 5 plus Y over 7. And X is 2. Make sure it goes in the X spot. Y is 8. Make sure it goes here. And now that I have this, what should I do? Plug it into my calculator. So we're going to plug it into the calculator, and sure enough, I don't even have that camera ready for the calculator. All right, here we go. All right, 2 over 5 plus 8 over 7. So on the calculator, fraction 2 over 5 plus fraction 8 over 7. Oops. Two over 5 plus 8 over 7, and I get 54 over 35. Two over 5 plus 8 over 7, and I get 54 over 35. And it reduces for us and everything. Okay, so that's the first problem. It's just evaluate. You're putting a 2 here. You're putting an 8 here, and then you're gonna, you can do the math. Remember, by the way, just to show you, remember how we did added fractions with different bottoms. We created 2 new fractions by multiplying these 2 together. 2 times 7 is 14. We multiply these 2 together. 8 times 5 is 40. And then we multiply these 2 together. 5 times 7 is 35. 14 and 40 is 54 over 35. The bottom stays the same. So I just recommend the calculator just to get through this test. All right, next problem is problem 7. So I'm going to move on to problem 7. By the way, you need to do the entire review, but these are the problems I really want you to focus on. Look at this problem. See if you can type this into your calculator exactly as seen. So, wow. I'm going to just type it in my calculator here. So it's just one big fraction. I'm hitting the fraction button, and then -8 plus parentheses -2, close parentheses. Then I'm opening a new parentheses, -6, close parentheses, divided by 12. That's all on top. On the bottom, I get 2, and that's a subtraction symbol because there's a number in front of it. Parentheses, since the parentheses is there's no number in front of it, so this is a -7. Close parentheses, and I have everything typed into my calculator. Hopefully somebody else is typing it in also to check my work. And when I hit enter, I get -7 over 9. Actually, I can check my own work. -7 over 9 and see what it says. It says, well done. So you have to, I mean, can you type that in your calculator? That's, I mean, you'll see this course is challenging. You have to be able to use this calculator. So the calculator, being able to use a calculator is so we can get to the college algebra. We don't get to college algebra until week 3, till, right? Or is it did I say, yeah, the end of week 3. The end of next week, I believe. Yes. Or the week after that, I can't even remember. All right, next question. We have a chat. Mine says error because you typed in a negative instead of a subtraction, or a subtraction instead of a negative. Say if it says error, then either you have the wrong negative symbol. See, that's a -8 plus -2 parentheses times a -6 plus 12. But down here it's 2 subtract and then parentheses -7. So you have to be careful about that. If you're getting an error, more than likely you have a negative sign wrong. You're using a subtraction instead of a negative, or the parentheses are incorrect. It has to look exactly as you see it. So that's why I say it's really important on your homework to always use your calculator and get this correct. Matilda, if you want, at the end of class, we can go back and do a couple of problems. Let me get through the rest. If you're not able to get some of these on a calculator correctly, make a note of it, and at the end of class, I'll let everybody go and we'll just work on that.
I have a question. I'm
Yes.
on my other computer, like with the review actually on the computer, and
Right.
when I plug in the answer, it says that it's wrong.
Because you probably have a different question than me.
Oh, you're right.
The computer generates about 8 or 10 different questions depending on, when, if I leave and come back, it'll give me a different question.
Oh, okay, duh, that makes sense.
Okay. So in other words, she's trying to just use my answers now. No, but you'll see that some of the numbers are different, just a few, but the format of the problem is the same. Okay, so that was number 7. We're going to problem 8. And this is the same thing. This is evaluate. We're plugging numbers into letters. So I'm going to rewrite this. Negative p squared minus 7q plus r squared. Do you see everywhere I see a letter, I put a parentheses, and I mentioned this when we first went over it, and this is really important because you have to type it in the calculator this way. P is -4. Q is 7, and R is -14. So you have to type this in exactly this way. So I'm going to do that. Let's see if I can bring it here. And it's a negative. There's nothing in front. And there's still nothing in front of this 4. Or this. So it's a negative again. It's a negative again, not the subtraction, because there's no number in front. 4 parentheses. Then I'm going to square it, raised to the 2nd power. I have to arrow over to bring that down. Now, if you look, this is a subtraction because there's numbers and stuff in front of it. So we have to use the subtraction key. 7 parentheses 7 plus parentheses a -14. Close parentheses, and then we're going to square that. So I mean, it takes practice. You got to be able to use this calculator. 131 is what I got. Did anybody else actually?
I did.
Okay, good. You got 131. Good. And once again, we can check it by just plugging it in here and checking my answer. And the answer is 131. Okay, so we are now going to, Matilda, did you try that and get an error also? I don't know. Maybe I'm going too fast. Hopefully I'm not going too fast.
No, sir, I didn't. Sorry, I
Okay.
didn't try it.
All right.
You went pretty fast.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, I'll slow down a little. Going to number 17. I'm going to slow down a little. Okay, well, here we're not plugging into the calculator anymore. So I'll do some more calculator work with people at the end of class. So here's the problem. And you can't put this in the calculator because it's solving for X. So I'm going to rewrite the problem here. This is what the problem is. And if you remember, when you see solve, you go through the steps for solving. Step 1 is distribute. 8 times 4 is 32. And then 8 times, wait, oh, that's a 4x. 8 times 4 is 32 with an x. 8 times 8 is a positive 64. The equal sign comes down and the 11. We still have to distribute, remember, a negative in front of the parentheses as though we're saying there's an invisible -1 there. So we still have to distribute. -1 times x is a -1x. -1 times 2 is a -2. So this is what we have. Step 1, distribute. Step 2 was try to combine like terms on each side. I cannot add the left side together, but there are 2 things on the right side I can combine. 11 minus 2 is 9. So we combine like terms. The next step is get all the x's to one side by using add or subtract. I have 32 x's on the left and a -1 on the right. So I want to get the x all to the left side. It's a minus 1x. To get it to the other side, I have to do the opposite. Remember, this step says add or subtract to get x's to one side. It's a minus 1x, so I'm going to add 1x. Add 1x. On the right side, that turned to 0. 32x plus 1x is 33x plus 64. So I'm at 33x plus 64 equals 9. And you really have to take your time with these problems. Do you see? I mean, there's a lot of steps involved here. Then our last two steps, step 4 and 5 for solving is get the 64 to the other side and get the 33 to the other side. You always take the add and subtract. Step 4 says take the add and subtract to the other side first. This is multiplying to the x. This one is adding. So instead of adding 64, we're going to subtract 64. That turned to 0. I'm left with 33x equals 9 minus 64. That's a negative 55. And if you're not sure, plug it into your calculator. The only thing I need to do now is divide by 33. I need to get the 33 to the other side. So I'm going to divide by 33. 33 divided by 33 is 1x. And if you put this in your calculator, you get negative 5 over 3. It reduces to negative 5 over 3. They both divide by 11. And that worked out pretty good. So have those steps for solving in front of you. You're going to have a problem that looks really similar like to this. I mean, I'd have those steps right in front of us. I'm going to do step 1. I'm going to do step 2. There were 5 steps for solving. That was question 17. Another solve is question 18. So once again, we're going to distribute. There's only one distribute in this problem. You see one number outside of a parentheses. That's the only distribute. Negative 6 times v is negative 6v. I should write in black. Negative 6 times 4, negative 6 times a positive 4 is a negative 24. Then I'm just going to write everything plus 2v equal, plus 5 equals 7v plus 6. So I just did step 1, distribute, and this is what I got. Step 2 is add everything you can on either side of the equal sign. On the right side, nothing changes. I get 7v plus 6 because I can't add v's with numbers. But over here, I have v's and I have v's. Minus 6 plus 2 is a minus 4v. And once again, put it in your calculator. Negative 6 plus 2 is a negative 4. And then the numbers, negative 24 plus 5 is a minus 19. So I'm at this point right here. My goal is to get v's on one side at this point. So step 3 is add or subtract to get v's on one side. You have to decide which side you're taking the v's to. To keep my v's positive, I'm going to take this to the other side. It's a minus 4v, and step 3 says the only way you can take it to the other side is add or subtract. It's a minus 4, so I'm going to add 4v. Add 4v. When I do that, this turns to 0. I get negative 19 equals 7v plus 4v is 11v plus 6. All right. So there are two things I got to get rid of, the 11 and the 6. I need to get rid of the 11 and the 6. And I mentioned this before. The hardest part is figuring out which one you get to the other side first. You do step 4, the add or subtract. This is adding 6. The opposite adding 6 is subtracting 6. I get 11v equals negative 19 minus 6 is a negative 25. And then I divide by 11. I need to get rid of the 11. It's multiplying. So I'm going to divide by 11, and v equals negative 25 over 11. You put that in your calculator, it does not reduce. And that is correct. So all we're doing is going through those steps. It's so important to finish your homework, but then, like I said, studying doesn't happen until you're done with the homework. So hopefully you're caught up on your homework and you've done it all, because now is the time to really study. Study is trying to do this. Well, do it one time with your notes, but try to do do the whole review with your notes, and then try to do this review without a lot of help, you know, because you got to get through the test also. That is number 19. Number 20. It's solving for x, the same thing. And I don't remember if we did a decimal one. But solving for x, the first thing we need to do is there's a number outside of parentheses we have to distribute. We start off with 0.18y, and we're distributing 0.02. 0.02 times y is a positive 0.02y. 0.02 times 9,000, I think is 100, or what is it? 180. 9,000 times 0.02 is 180, plus 180 equals 1580. So once we distribute, this is what we get. Combine like terms, these two can be added, 0.18 and plus 0.02 on my calculator says 0.20y. Plus 180 equals 1580. I now need to get rid of the 180 and the 0.20. Always get rid of the add and subtract first. This one's adding to this side. This is multiplying to the y. So we want to get minus 180 minus 180. Get the 180 over first. .2y equals 1400. 1580 minus 180 is 1400. The last thing we need to do is divide by point. Did I write that down right? I didn't write it down correctly. Oh, no, I did, because these two add together. I'm sorry, I forgot. These two. A second. These two add together, get 0.20. So I divide by 0.2, divide by 0.2. You can put the 0 in there. It doesn't matter. I get y equals 1400 divided by 0.20, 7,000. Question? Anybody got a question? You can see, I mean, even for me, there's a lot of steps here. If you're trying to cut corners and skip steps, I don't know how you're going to do it. Okay, you're lost on this particular question, Matilda? Can you explain where you're lost on the whole thing, or? All right. If once again, if anybody needs any extra help, I'll stay. I'll stay at the end. I don't see us being here past 8. Well, we'll see when we finish these questions. Maybe I am going through them a little fast. I should have waited till everybody finished. Well, we had to do something today. Should have waited till everybody tried the review at least once. Question 21. So that's the end of solving. Now we're just simplifying, doing as much math as we can. Look here, there's just 2 numbers multiplying together. Remember how we did this? We multiply the numbers in front. -3 times 8 is -3 times a +8 is a -24. x6 times x4, when you have 2 numbers with the same base, the base stays the same. You add the powers. And that's the answer. So you just multiply the numbers in front, then you multiply the x's. When you add x's with bases with powers, the base stays the same, you add their powers. And you need the palette to type this in. You see, my answer was -24. I'm just going to type in -24. And then you use this one here, x to the 10 power. If I type this in, oh, that's just the power. So I have to type in an x before that. X to the 10th power. And I got it wrong. What did I type in? Oh, I forgot the negative sign. Is that a there? -24. There we go. So now we have the correct answer. So you have the correct answer, that goes away. 23 is next. Okay. Remember when you have a power outside of parentheses, it attaches to each item in the parentheses. There's a negative in front of this parentheses, but then we have an 8. And that 8 has a power of 2. I'm going to put the 8 in parentheses. It has a power of 2. Then we have an m to the 16th, and that has a power of 2. Then we have an n to the 0 power, and that has a power of 2. So that power of 2 outside the parentheses attaches to each item in the parentheses. The negative is still outside. 8 to the 2nd power is 64. There's a negative sitting in front of it still. Remember what happens when we have a power raised to a power, another exponential rule. You multiply. 16 times 2 is 32. And then here, 0 times 2 is still 0. By the way, n to the 0, don't forget, this is not our final answer. N to the 0 equals 1. So this is really, yes, thank you, -64 m32 times 1. Well, -64 times 1 is still -64. So that 1, it just goes away because it's 1 times negative 64, which is still negative 64. And this is what the answer looks like. Negative 64 m, wow, to the 32 power. And it's marked correct. And we are on 24. This is problem 24 next. When I hit enter, it goes to the next problem automatically. This was the problem we just did. Problem 24. Power outside of a parentheses. We have to attach it to each thing in the parentheses. So here is my fraction. I have a 4. It has a power of 3 attached to it. I have an x to the 5. It has a power of 3 attached to it. I have a 5 on the bottom. It should have a power of 3. Do you see this 3 attaches to everything in the parentheses? That power of 3 outside the parentheses has to attach to each item in the parentheses. I have a y square on the bottom, and it has to have a power of 3 attached to it. So first thing, this power of 3, once again, attaches to each item in the parentheses. There's a problem on the test that looks really similar to this. Okay, so let's do the work. 4 to the 3rd power, you can put that on your calculator, is 64. Power raised to a power is multiply. 5 times 3 is 15, x to the 15th power. 5 to the 3rd power is 125. 5 times 5 times 5. And here we're going to multiply these two together. Power raised to a power, you multiply. 2 times 3 is y6. X's and y's cannot do anything. They're different. You can try to put this in your calculator and see if it reduces. It doesn't reduce, 64 over 125. So that is the final answer, 64x15 over 125 y6. Okay. So now we're going to go to number, everybody okay with this? Have I slowed down a little bit? I think the problem's got a little bit less complicated too. I get so excited. I just want to move through everything too fast, I think. All right. We are on problem 25, if I can get there. There's problem 25. Okay. Once again, I looked at the test and I looked at this review. These are the questions that look really scary similar. Very similar. I say scary similar because they're so similar to the problems that are on the actual test. Can somebody tell me what 5 to the 0 power equals? Just
1.
yes. 9 to the 0 power.
1.
So what does this parentheses to the 0 power equal?
1.
Yes. Well,
Negative.
yes. No, just the parentheses to the 0 power
Oh.
equals 1. But yes, there is a negative in front of it. So the answer to this question is -1. Remember, that 0 power changes. If you have a 0 power, it's changing everything in that parentheses to 1. This is, this whole thing here has a 0 power. Anything to a 0 power equals 1. but there just happened to be a negative in front of it. That doesn't change. That stays there. So the answer to this problem is -1. All right. 27 is next. So some of these problems aren't as big and elaborate as others. Look at this one. We should be able to do this one in less than 30 seconds. What does the negative on the power mean, the negative part? Anybody want to tell me? What do I do? Why is it got a negative power? What does a negative power, what's a negative power rule tell me to do? Boy, didn't we just learn this yesterday? Did you guys do your homework? Remember, negative power tells you to flip it. If the negative part just tells you to flip it, 1 over 5 changes to 5 over 1. Another way of writing 5 over 1 is just 5. 5 divided by 1 is 5. The power of 2 stays attached to it. Once you flip it, the negative power goes away. So we talked about this in exponents. Once you flip it, the negative power goes away. The 2, it stays attached to it. And 5 to the second power is 25. So that's my answer. And that is the answer. Negative power says flip whatever it's attached to. It's attached to 1/5. We switch it to 5 over 1. If you put 5 over 1, try putting a fraction 5 over 1 on your calculator. A lot of people get this confused. When you hit enter, it just says 5. That's why, 5 over 1, we have it here, is the same thing as just saying 5. But then we still, we had a power 2 here, and then we still have the power of 2 attached. Once you flip it, the negative sign goes away. Next question is problem 30. Look how easy this problem is. Well, I don't know if it's easy. I can't multiply the bases because they're not the same. When you multiply two numbers with the same base, you add their powers. They're not. Somebody tell me what I can do. Oh, by the way, this is a multiple choice question. I can't multiply them together because they don't have the same base. One's an X and one's a Y. What do you see that I can do? Anybody see anything I can do? Look at now there's a hint in this problem. The hint is, let's read the instructions. Write an equivalent expression with positive exponents. In other words, we're not allowed to have negative powers. What does a negative power do? It flips whatever it's attached to. This negative power is only attached to the Y. It's not attached to the X. It's only attached to the Y. So we have to flip the Y. The X stays where it's at. The X6 stays where it's at. The Y is, do you see, another way of writing this is like this, over 1. But the Y goes to the bottom. The Y gets flipped. The 3 stays attached to it. So in this problem, that Y was on top. Now it goes to the bottom. And if you look at our answers, D is it. That's all. All you had to do is take that y, flip it. It's on top. Now it goes to the bottom. So some of these can be done pretty quickly. I'd come back and watch this video and go back and try to do the, do the problems with the video, and then go back and try to do the problems without the video. It's really important that you're able to do these review problems. The entire review, but also these specific problems, go back and try them again. Question 34 is next. This. Find the product. Product means multiply. In other words, there's a little multiply outside this parentheses. You don't see it, it's invisible, but it's there. Can somebody tell me what I should do? I want to hear the word. Anybody want to, what's that word I'm looking for again? When there's a number outside of a parentheses, we distribute.
Distribute.
Yeah, thanks. We have to distribute to each term in the parentheses. That's all they want you to do, distribute, and then try to add like terms if you can. So I'm going to write it all out. It's 9x squared times 4x3. Do you see? First, we're going to do just these two. And when I get that, I get 9 times 4 is 36. X squared times x3, two numbers with the same base. When you multiply it, the base stays the same. You add their powers. Then I'm going to do, in red, 9x squared times 3x. I'm going to do 9x squared times 3x squared. 9 times 3 is 27, and it's a positive 27. X squared times x squared. The base stays the same. You add the powers. 2 and 2 is 4. Next, I'm going to do 9x squared times 9x. 9x squared times 9x. 9 times 9 is a, wait, times a negative 9x. There, see that is a negative 9x. I didn't see it right there. There's the sign. 9x squared times a negative 9x. I made it really messy, but times a negative 9x. 9 times 9 is a negative 81. X squared times x, base stays the same. We add the powers. 2 and an invisible 1 is 3. And then finally, let's try a different color. This one. 9x squared times 9. 9x squared times 9. 9 times 9 is a positive 81. And then we just have an x squared. There are no like terms. I can't add x5s with x4s, or x4s with x3s, or x2s with x3s. I can't add any of these together. This is my answer. You type the whole thing in. Oh, let's see if I want to do that. You can make a mistake just typing it in. 36 x to the 5th power. This one raised to the power. I'm going to arrow over. Then I get plus 27x to the 4th power. Arrow over. Minus 81x to the 3rd power. Plus 81x squared. Unfortunately, I wrote over my stuff, but let's see if we got the right answer. Hey, we got it correct. So I typed that whole thing in there just like that with the signs and everything. You have to have a sign between them, a plus or a minus. And that was question 34. 36 is next. All right, so this is more distribution, and we did these yesterday. If you really haven't practiced these, then yeah, we need to practice these. It's really important at this point. You'll see, because we're going to take another test next week, or maybe the week after. So it's really important to stay current. Try to get this homework done before class starts. As much as you can. Once again, you have till Friday to take this test. I wouldn't wait to Friday. What if your computer goes down or there's a storm and you lose power? You could call me up Monday or send me an email Monday. Oh, I lost power. I couldn't take the test. You get a 0. There's no excuse. There's nothing. No excuse, unfortunately. Especially if you wait to the last day. If you called me on Saturday morning, said I took the test and power, I just lost power and I just got it back, I'd probably give you another shot at the test. You know, I'd give you more time to get it up. But if you do this Sunday night and then email me at 10 o'clock on Sunday night when I'm in bed, I can't help you. It's too late. Monday, there's no extending. Or I mean Friday. Friday's the test. Did I say the wrong day? 36, you're right. We're not doing this one. Thank God, that one was so hard. I'm glad, Denise, I'm glad you're keeping me on my toes here. So we're gonna use FOIL, 7c minus 1 times 8c plus 3. Remember how we did this? We're gonna multiply these two together, 7c times 8c. 7 times 8 is 56. C times c is c squared. Remember, the bases stay the same. We add these invisible ones. 1 and 1 is 2. Then I'm going to go 7c times 3. 7c times 3 is a positive. 7 times 3 is a positive, 21. And then we just have a c. Then I'm going to do this one, negative 1 times 8. Negative 1 times 8c. Negative 1 times 8 is a negative 8c. And then I'm going to multiply this one, negative 1 times 3. Negative 1 times 3 is a negative 3. All right, so we have everything here. If I type this in, it's going to mark it wrong. Because when I FOIL, usually, not all the time, but usually the two middle terms can be combined together. They're both C's. So 21 minus 8 is a positive 13C. Do you see? 21 apples minus 8 apples is 13 apples. We still have a minus 3, and we still have a 56C squared. C squares cannot be added with C's, by the way. C's can only be added and subtracted with other C's. And this is the answer I get. 56C squared plus 13C minus 3. And I got it right. And thank you, Denise, for not making me do that other problem. 37. Problem 37 is next. And it's the same thing. We're going to FOIL these two. 2 terms times 2 terms. 7a times 8a. 7 times 8. Boy, this looks so familiar. I guess we didn't do it yet. 56a squared. A times a is a squared. 7a times 5. 7a times 5 is a positive 35a. Then we're going to do negative 3 times 8. Negative 3 times 8a. Negative 3 times 8 is a negative 24a. And then negative 3 times 5 is a negative 15. More than likely, the two middle terms can be combined. 35 minus 24 is 11a. Now, if you end up with something like this, you have to have a sign. If you look at 11a, 35 plus 24 is a positive 11a, so we put a plus sign between those. And we're going to type those in. 56a. I think I can just raise it to the power. Yeah, a squared plus 11a minus 15. And we got it right. So we have 38 and 39. Let's see what 39 looks like, because I think I'm going to do 38 last. Yeah, we're going to do 39 first, and then I'm going to go back and do 38, okay? I'm going to do 39 first, and then I'm going to go back and do 38. If you remember from yesterday, if both of these parentheses are the same, the only difference is a plus and a minus that are different, then the middle terms always cancel out. I talked about this a little bit yesterday. So first we have 5c times 5c, 5c times 5c, 25c squared. 5c times a negative 4, 5c times negative 4. 5 times negative 4 is negative 20 with a c. Then we have 4 times 5c. 4 times 5c is a positive 20c. And then we have 4 times a negative 4. 4 times a negative 4 is a negative 16. A negative 20c and a positive 20c turn to 0, and my answer is 25c squared minus 16. C squared minus 16. And the last problem, yes, the last but not least. And one of these will be on the test, number 38. Like I said, I went through the test. I found problems that look really similar to the test. And number 38 is, look at number 38. It's on the test. 2 terms times 3 terms. So we should have 6 terms all multiplied together when we do this. Do you see 2y times a negative 4y squared? So I'm going to try to write small. 2y times a negative 4y squared. That's 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. Y times y squared is y3. Then we're going to go 2y times 7y. 2y times 7y is a positive 14. Y times y is y squared. Then we're going to go 2y times 3. 2y times 3 is a positive 6y. 2 times 3 is 6. All right, we did the 2y times everything in the parentheses. Now I'm going to do the negative 3. Negative 3 times a negative 4y squared. Negative 3 times negative 4 is a positive 12y squared. Negative 3 times 7. Negative 3 times 7y. Negative 3 times 7. And if you're not sure about the signs, don't forget you can use your calculator. I get a negative 21. But you can't use it with the y's. You could just do the numbers. That's a multiply. And then finally, negative 3 times a positive 3. Negative 3 times a positive 3 is a negative 9. We have 6 terms all lined up. So we can't type in these 6 terms because if we do, we get the problem wrong. We have to try to combine things we can. There are no other y3s, so our answer is going to have 8y3 in it. We have y squares, 14 and 12. 14 and 12 is 26 y squares. When we add the terms, 14 apples plus 12 apples is 26 apples. The y square part don't change when we add or subtract, only when we multiply. We're going to do y's. 6 minus 21 is a negative 15y. 6 minus 21 is a negative 15. And then we just have the minus 9 at the end. Y3s cannot add with y squares. Y squares cannot add or subtract with y's. Numbers by themselves can't do anything else. So this is what our answer should look like. Negative 8y to the third plus 26y squared. If I'm even typing it in correctly. Maybe I should erase that so I can actually see. Yeah, see, I think I'm typing it in wrong. 26 y squared. I have 2 squares on there. Minus 15y minus 9. So I think I have it typed in correctly. And yes, it said it was correct. All right, so that is the test review. Those 19 or 20 questions that we just did, I went through it kind of quickly, but the video is here. That is the test review. Please try to take the test as soon as you can. Don't wait till almost midnight on Friday. The test is due on Friday. If you can, take it tomorrow sometime or Thursday. Please don't wait till Friday. Something always goes wrong. Friday at 10 o'clock, I'm not going to answer my phone. I probably will, but I'd yell at you. Any questions? I'm going to stay and go over some more calculator problems. I'll go back to the beginning and try some more calculator problems. Did anybody have any other questions? I missed number 9. I didn't do number 9. Is that what you're saying, Kaylee? All right. I didn't do number 9. Let's go back. Okay. See, I need you guys to keep me on my toes. Number 9. This is a calculator problem. Perfect. So let's get it ready for the calculator. Okay, so the problem is negative, and it's a fraction, p, and I'm going to put p in there. P is negative 6 plus 3, and then it's squared. So do you see the p is -6 plus 3, and then we put a square. I actually like to put a parentheses everywhere there's a letter, so I think it helps me a lot. -7 times r, and if we look up here, r is -5. This really helps by everywhere you see a letter, you put a parentheses in its place. So it's parentheses, then another parentheses. 3 minus q, and q is 7. So let's put this into our calculator. Let's everybody put this into our calculator and see how we do. I'm going to give you a second, and then I'm going to type it in. If anybody gets an answer, just type it in the chat box. We'll see if more than one person comes up with the same answer. Anybody else get an answer? All right, let me try to type it in. I'll give you another second. I know as soon as I go away, it's going to erase. That's why I don't want to go away yet. I could give everybody the opportunity. Or actually, I could type it in while I'm here. I was going to type it in for you. That's a negative, so I'm using the negative symbol, parentheses, parentheses, -6, parentheses, plus 3, close parentheses, raise it to the second power. Subtract 7, parentheses, -5, close parentheses. Oh, that was all a fraction. I forgot to hit fraction first. Oh, don't forget, if you get an error, and then I think if you hit enter, it highlights the part that was wrong. Remember that happened to me? Plus 3, parentheses, raise it to the second power. -7, subtract 7. Yes, subtract 7, parentheses, -5. And on the bottom, I have 3 minus parentheses 7. And I got the same thing Alma got. Did anybody else try it? Or are you guys just sleeping? It's really important to try these problems. It's so important. Test time is the wrong time to try it. Last call if anybody else wants to type in their answer. Okay. Well, that's why I said it's really important to be practicing using this calculator, or the test is never going to get completed. All right, so let me show you my calculator. I already did it, but I mean, I got the same thing she got. But So this is what I got, negative 13 over 2. I think, I thought there was a way for, going up. I'm going to hit enter for that. I want to show you, I used the subtraction symbol here. I used the subtraction symbol here, and that one was a negative. If I accidentally hit the negative button there, watch what happens. Let's see if anything happens. Because I think somebody had an error. Watch what happens. Oh, it just messed it all up. So it definitely messed everything up. Let me see if I can get that back fixed. I thought maybe it would give me an error. Oh, so I'm going back to the subtraction button there, and when I hit enter, I get the correct answer. Do you see? If you get something wrong, I'm going to arrow up, and I'm going to arrow up again and highlight it. If you hit enter, it brings the problem back, and then you can arrow and make changes. So this is the change I want to make. I want to show you. This is the change I want to make. Let's say I put, that's a negative 6. Let's say I put a subtraction 6. I think this might work. Let me hit enter now. And do you see it says syntax error? Because I use a subtraction symbol instead of a negative. When I hit enter, what am I supposed to hit? I know I'm supposed to hit something and it's going to tell me, or clear. And do you see how it highlights the thing that's wrong? When you have a syntax error, like I had a syntax error, when you hit clear, it's going to give you error. You hit clear. Watch, I'm going to hit enter, and there's something wrong. I got syntax error. That means a minus or a plus sign or a parentheses is missing. When I hit clear, it's going to tell me what's wrong. Oh, I used a subtraction symbol instead of a negative symbol. Now I changed it to negative, and when I hit the whole thing enter, it gives me the correct answer. So it's good to understand your calculator. It kind of tells you what's wrong, unless you really messed everything up. If it's highlighting a parentheses, that means you forgot to close or open a parentheses. You got negative 7 over 4, Samantha? All right. Anyway, I'm going to stop here. I'm going to stop recording right now.